for being here today. My name is Nathaniel. I'm Pastor Archer's oldest son, and we are here today at the Canadian Embassy because Canada has done a great injustice. And you should be concerned about that for many reasons. Americans, you have reason to be concerned. Firstly, you should be afraid what's going on right across your border. You have neighbors that are unfriendly. In fact, they are hostile towards Christians, towards freedoms, towards human rights. They are breaking human rights as we speak. My dad is not the only case. There are many pastors across Canada being persecuted just for being Christian, just for reading the Word of God, just for keeping their churches open, just for feeding the homeless, just for bringing the Word into the public sphere. And you should be afraid. You should be afraid because our Canadian government hates you. Our Canadian government actually despises America. And that should be concerning because you share the greatest border with Canada. That is the threat to your national security. Canada is a threat. And I stand here because 1 Corinthians 12:26 says, if one member suffers, we all suffer. If one member rejoices, we all rejoice. And members just across the border, your brothers and sisters, are suffering. If they come after one of us, they come after all of us. That is the reality. They are waging a war not on my father, not on freedom fighters or patriots in Canada. They are waging a war on truth, on the Word of God, on God Himself. They despise anyone who represents a higher power. Why? Because tyrants need to be God. Tyrants need to replace God. And when someone tells the government, no, there's a higher authority, God is the ultimate authority, that is a threat to their oligarchy. So our government has found my father guilty of inciting mischief. Mischief. No one knows what that crime is. Mischief, allegedly, according to this political activist judge, is a thought crime, a speech crime, like you read about in 1984. This is Orwellian times we live in, where your words, if you say words that the government disagrees with, you will be thrown in jail and facing up to 10 years in prison. My father faces sentencing on September the 18th coming up here, up to 10 years in prison for giving a sermon to the truckers, a 19-minute speech where he told the truckers to peacefully protest and to do it with God on their side. And for that he was arrested, jailed, thrown in prison for 50 days in solitary confinement. Just so you know, anything over 14 days in solitary confinement is considered torture under the Geneva Convention. And they did it for 50 days. This is what the Canadian government does to anyone who is a threat to their tyranny. And we don't kid yourself, this mentally inept man-child that we have in government, Trudeau, is a tyrant. He is a dictator. And we have a despotic government that is actually abusing its people. And I see the signs here in America. You are following suit. What happens in Canada trickles down to America. Whether you understand that or not, you are not far behind. You know how I know that? Just over there you have a press conference going on about other political prisoners. This is happening in America. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a selfish incentive why you should care about this Canadian pastor, about what's going on in Canada. You know why you should care? Because if you put pressure on the Canadian government because they are abusing religious liberty and freedom of speech and freedom of expression and freedom to protest and assemble and speak your conscience, you are sending a message to your own government that you will not allow this to happen on your own soil. So if you stand up for Canada, you're standing up for yourselves. And that is important. It sends a strong message to your own government that you will not allow this to happen on your own soil. So understand that by fighting for us, you're fighting for yourselves. So again, I want to thank you all for doing this. I believe the pressure that America put on Canada when my father was in jail was instrumental in getting him out of prison. Because Canadian government fears American government. You are still a powerhouse. The Christians here are still a front force fighting for religious liberty around the world. And what you did when my dad was in prison, putting political pressure on our government, on the court system, on the judges, on the prosecutors, on the police, on the prison, it helped get him out. There was state representatives that decided to pass a resolution in Ohio to put Canada on a religious persecution watch list. And that's what we need, because we have really surpassed countries like China, North Korea. We arrested more pastors during COVID than North Korea and China did. That's a huge feat to accomplish. And this is a once free and strong nation that has a constitution, by the way. So the message my dad had for America when he was here 2 years ago is, your constitution will not save you. Tyrants do not care about the Constitution. You have to care about the Constitution. You have to uphold your rights and freedoms, your God and state given rights. They will not do it for you. It's a piece of paper to them. They will use it like toilet paper. They do not care. So the message is, you must stand up. No one's going to fight for you. No one's coming to save you. You must stand. With God on your side, you are always the majority. So thank you. Thank you all for being here. Continue to pressure the Canadian government, because they fear this. They fear being exposed, embarrassed on a global stage. They're coming after my dad because he embarrassed them. He exposed them. He brought light to the reality that we have in Canada. A lot of people say, you have your rights and freedoms. What are you talking about? Canada's free. America's free. And I say, you're right. You have your rights and freedoms until you step outside the party line. Until you step outside what the government deems is acceptable. But that's not the point of rights and freedoms. The point of rights and freedom is to protect you against government, not the other way around. And you must uphold that. That is up to you. That is your responsibility. As patriots, as freedom-loving Americans, as Christians, that is your responsibility. And we have to keep Canada and countries like Canada accountable. They cannot get away with this. They must not get away with this. So thank you all for being here. God bless you.